I'm keeping it simple today. I'm just going to be photographing along a very short stretch of country lane. There are some wonderful verges here, lots of flowers, and I'm hoping for some insects as well. Though it is quite breezy, so that may discourage them from flying. And on that subject, it's quite a cold breeze, so I wish I'd put on a thicker t-shirt, I must admit. I'm mainly going to be using my 60mm Olympus macro lens, but I also have this, a 100mm Canon FD macro lens, which I've adapted to fit micro four thirds cameras. Some more on that later. Now, it can be quite a challenge to work in such a small area, such as this lane, but it's a challenge I really like. It can be quite tricky to find a large variety of subjects, but I find that the more you stay in an area, the more you start to see. It can be so easy just to kind of go somewhere, be there for 5 minutes, take the shot and go away again. But I think it really does pay to linger and to look and to see what the possibilities are. So we'll roll the titles and then we'll begin. This is my first shot setup. It's a fern unfurling, which is good fun to say. Now it's backlit, the sun is over there behind some trees, so I'm getting a sort of dappled lighting too. So as the breeze is moving the leaves on the trees, the light's changing all the time. Plus there's some cloud in the sky, so sometimes the fern is in shade essentially. And I'm not sure which I prefer, whether I prefer the soft light of shade or the more contrasty light when there's light directly on the fern. So I'm going to take a few different shots as the light's changing, see which I prefer ultimately. And you can let me know in the comments later when you see the finished shot. Now it's quite a challenge as well because, like I say, it's very breezy today. So I've got a high ISO to give me a fast enough shutter speed to stop any movement. And I'm shooting with a large aperture, f4 I think. So that's going to give me a very shallow depth of field, but again, it's going to give me a fairly fast shutter speed. So I'm going to take the shot and we'll have a look and see what I get. This is future me. When I came to edit the video a few days later, I realised that I hadn't described exactly what Canon FD lenses actually are, which I think is slightly heartening. It shows that there's no artificial intelligence involved in making this video. It's all natural stupidity. I think that's a bonus, I think. Anyway, Canon FD lenses. It's a range of lenses made by Canon. They're purely manual focus, and they were made between 1971 and I think 1987, when they were supplanted by the Canon EOS range, which are autofocus, and they're easily adapted to micro four thirds cameras via a suitable adapter, which I have fitted to this camera and which I'll explain a bit more later. I've got a few Canon FD lenses. I've also got a Minolta lens for an old Minolta camera. Again, manual focus, aperture ring. At some point I need to get an adapter for this, but it's really good fun using adapted lenses on micro four thirds cameras because there's quite a range of them and they're cheap, like I'll mention again later. And they're fun to use and have a sort of quirky quality all their own. There are, of course, upsides and downsides to using an old lens like this. I'd say the main advantage is that these are relatively cheap compared to a similar modern lens with the same capabilities. I'm not sure what I paid for this now. I've had it for a good few years, but it can only be tens of pounds rather than hundreds of pounds. There are no electronic contacts on this lens, nor on the adapter. So this means when it's attached to the camera effectively doesn't know that it's there. This affects things like image stabilization, the in-body image stabilization. So I have a lens profile set up on my OM-1, and I switch to that when I'm using this lens, and this helps the camera know what focal length it is, because I've set that information up. And this means it can sort of adjust the image stabilization to suit. It also means, because of the lack of electronic contacts, that the camera can't do any automatic corrections for things like vignetting or chromatic aberration. So if you need to correct for that kind of thing, that can only be done in post-processing in Lightroom or similar. Another advantage, at least for me anyway, is that these lenses are purely mechanical. You know, you have to focus manually, the aperture ring has to be turned manually. I just really enjoy that. I like the craft of using a lens like this. I like the fact that it slows you down and makes you think about what you're doing, which I really enjoy. However, I can see that it could be a disadvantage for some. One disadvantage of using an older lens like this is that optically it may not be quite as good as a modern lens with similar capabilities. Certainly this lens isn't anywhere near as sharp as my 60mm macro, but to be fair, the 60mm macro is a very sharp lens indeed, so that's it's not surprising that it doesn't quite hit the mark, but it's still fairly decent. So it's worth reading reviews about older lenses before you buy them. So it really is good fun using lenses like this. Now, what I've not ever used is old Olympus lenses from the 1980s. If you've ever used one, do let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of it and how easy it was to adapt to the modern Olympus cameras. Yeah, I really would like to know that. Now, I'm going to go and put this through its paces, see what I can find and what I can shoot with it. Like I say, this lens is purely manually focused, so there's no autofocusing. So I'm just relying on focus peaking to get things nice and sharp. I have to admit, I don't like the magnification option, where the camera magnifies the center of the screen as a focusing aid. I find that really disconcerting, so I tend to use focus peaking only. My job's been made much harder because there is a bit of a breeze today, so the grass is sort of bobbing forwards, backwards and sideways in all sorts of ways. It is quite tricky to keep it in focus. So I'm just waiting for the breeze to die down. When that dies down, and it does every so often, I very quickly focus at that point, take the shot. I've also got the ISO quite high now, again to freeze movement, if there is any. So this is very much a waiting game, and I won't make you wait. I'll let you see the final shot whilst I carry on here for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes. This lens isn't perfect at f4. It's quite soft and there's quite a lot of chromatic aberration. It gets a lot better at f5.6, better yet at f8. That said, I'm more than happy to use it wide open if I want that sort of more dreamy, lack of depth of field, soft effect. So I don't mind using that aperture regardless of the technical imperfections. So never let that put you off. And if you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice that there's a bit of black tape around the barrel here, and that's because it's an adapted lens, but the lens itself was broken. The lens mount was buckled, so I basically mated it to a KNF adapter, so a micro four thirds to Canon FD adapter, and basically just super glued the two things together, having taken the lens slightly apart to get the two things to marry correctly. And then I just put a bit of tape on it just to hold the whole thing together, and to add a bit of pseudo weatherproofing, but to be honest, I think the tape will come off in the merest hint of a shower. But it works, and I don't mind that it's a bit quirky. For one thing, the lens aperture is on the side here rather than at the top where it should be, and that was just a case of how I could get the lens attached to the adapter. But I don't mind quirky, as long as I can use it, and as long as it works, and as long as I can get some pleasing images from it. I like to keep things simple when I'm composing a shot. I don't like my shots to be too cluttered. I think if you have everything and the kitchen sink in the shot, it can really detract from the subject. And of course, it's important to know exactly what the subject is, which in this case is this backlit buttercup. And the backlighting is helping as well, because that means that the background is nice and dark. So again, it's not drawing attention to itself. Your eye is really being drawn to that buttercup. And of course, it's bobbing about in the wind at the moment. So I think the trick with this image is to wait for the wind to die down so that the buttercup is stable, so I can get a nice sharp image of the buttercup and that it's exactly in the frame where I want it to be. I'm also using a really long lens. This is my 75-300, of which more in a later video, and I'm using it at 300mm. Now the maximum aperture at that focal length, is 6.7, which is relatively small, but because it's such a long lens and I'm focusing almost at its minimum focusing distance, I can't get that much closer to the buttercup at this focal length. I'm still getting very little depth of field, which again, is helping to simplify the shot, which is what I want. So I'm going to wait for the wind to die down and get the shot. I'll put it up on screen after that, and then we'll go and find another image to take. Oh, forgot to mention, hence the jump cut. I've had to underexpose this image because the background is so dark. It was fooling the camera meter, so the camera meter was trying to push that background up to a mid-grey, which isn't what I wanted. I want that background to be nice and, not black, but very dark compared to the buttercup, which was overexposing too. So I've dialed in about 1.5 stops of underexposure. That's given me a nice dark background, which again is helping to declutter the image. And my buttercup is nicely exposed, which is what I want. I don't want that to be overexposed when I get back home to review the image. When I'm shooting the big landscape, I tend to prefer a side light, so the sun is at 90 degrees to the subject. That helps to reveal the form of the subject because you have highlights on one side, shadow on the other, so it makes the subject look more three-dimensional. However, for plants and flowers, I think I prefer backlighting, which is where the light is in front of the camera and behind the subject, just like the buttercup I shot a few minutes ago. I mean, the light doesn't necessarily have to be shining directly into the lens itself. In this case, the sun is just up there, so I don't know, roughly 70, 80 degrees above the horizon, but that's still enough to give me a backlight. And it really helps with plants and flowers because anything that's translucent, like a leaf or a flower, will just glow in that backlight, and it'll help to reveal the structure of that leaf or flower. And if you've got a really dark background, say, it'll really sort of pop out against that background. So the background has to be not illuminated by the sun. Again, just like the buttercup I shot before. So if you've not shot backlighting, I'd highly recommend it. It's probably more effective early morning, late afternoon, when the sun is a bit lower. But at the moment, it's looking really good. So I'm going to go and find some more subjects which I think are suitable for backlighting. Since I started this morning, the sun has swung round, so this lane, which was in complete shadow, is now directly lit, which means that the temperature is much warmer than it was first thing. So I'm glad I didn't put on that extra thick t-shirt. It does also mean that whatever insects there are very feisty now. They're obviously fully warmed up, so I think I'm going to struggle to shoot anything of that nature. But there are still plenty of flowers to shoot, so I'm going to continue there. The sun is behind me, so I'm getting a lovely sort of backlighting on my hair. I don't do much portrait photography, but rim lighting, which is where you get that sort of halo of hair by a rear mounted light, so the light is behind your subject, is quite attractive. Though I think I do need to get a haircut, don't I? Which I think Mrs. T would agree with. She's always right about this sort of thing. But anyway, I'm going to look for some more flowers. I think I need some more colour, either. I've just seen some campion, so I might go and shoot the campion. That'll give me a nice sort of purple to contrast with the yellow buttercups. I've just found this wonderful cow parsley, so I've ignored the campion at the moment. And it's in dappled light. There's a tree above me, and it's just dappling this cow parsley quite nicely. So I might shoot it from the top, but also perhaps even looking from down under. And it's always worth getting down below your subject to see what it's like from below there, which is much easier on a tall plant like this. A bit more tricky with a buttercup, obviously. Yeah, and perhaps shoot up into the light, so again, backlighting with the dappled light of the sun as a backdrop. So that could be quite interesting. And there are some interesting sort of purpley white flowers in this cluster as well, which is quite attractive, which is why I think I'll do a top-down shot first. I've switched to my 60mm macro lens because I want to get in quite close on the flower head because I really like the detail that's there. However, because it's still very breezy, so I've got the same problem I've had all day. The flower's moving around quite vigorously, so I'm going to have to wait for a still moment when the breeze drops before I can shoot the shot that I want and not get too much movement within the image, because I don't want it to be soft, I want it to be pin sharp. I am going to use a high ISO, so 1000, so again that's going to give me a very fast shutter speed. I'll shoot wide open, so I'm just getting the top of the flower in focus, and again that's helping me get that fast shutter speed. So yeah, I think it's just a case of waiting now, waiting for the breeze to drop so I can get the shot that I've got in my mind. Now, don't tell anyone, but I did cheat there a little bit. I held onto the plant ever so softly, not so I damaged it, just enough to steady it in the breeze. So let's have that as our little secret. But I think that worked. I'll see better when I see the images on my computer screen back at home. But now I think I'm going to get down low and shoot upwards and see what that looks like. So I'm now down below the flower, looking up at it. I've got rid of the tripod because I'm going to shoot handheld. And to be honest, that's probably how I would shoot flowers anyway. I find tripods just get in the way when doing this kind of thing. I've been using it today so I could keep the camera steady and talk to you at the same time and think about what I'm going to say next, which is incredibly difficult. Yes, difficult, I think. Anyway, shooting from below, I've got the sun on me at the moment, but if I look through, I can see the flowers are nicely backlit, which I think could be quite interesting. There's a nice structure below the flower there, that's sort of almost like an umbrella, an upside down umbrella. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This should be fun. We'll see what I come up with in a few seconds. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly found it fascinating what can be found in what's a relatively short stretch of road like this. I certainly haven't shot everything that I could possibly shoot along here, so I think a return visit might be in order. I hope you've found some of the tips useful. Please do comment below if you have any questions or suggestions which I can answer or may help other people in our little community. And I hope you will share and like the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're not already. That would be very much appreciated. Next week, who knows? I have a few little plans, but I'm not sure which one's going to come to fruition. I think this could be the last of the good weather for a few days, so that's not very good, is it? However, in the meantime, I hope you have a very pleasant week, and I hope to see you in 7 days' time with my next video. So yeah, see you then.